blog for people who love to write, and it's GailCarsonLevine.blogspot.com.
Oh, those are easy to remember. It's just like your name.
Yes, exactly. And kids can write to me on my website or on my blog, and that's the best way to get in touch.
Hi, it's great to be here. It's great to see you here.
So I'm going to read a little bit from the new book, talk about it a little bit, and then I'll be happy to take questions about anything. So this is the new book, A Tale of Two Castles, and I wrote it because I wanted to write a mystery. I've never written a mystery. And I went to fairy tales the way I always do, and I was looking for a fairy tale that would be mysterious. And how many of you know the fairy tale of Puss in Boots? Okay. Well, in Puss in Boots, near the end, there's a cat who goes into a castle owned by an ogre. And the cat says to the ogre, "I hear that you can shift shapes." And the ogre says, "Yes, I can." And the cat says, "Well, I don't believe it." So the ogre turns into a lion on the spot, and then turns back into an ogre. And the cat says, "Well, that's not such a big deal, because you're big already. I bet you can't turn into something small." So the ogre says, who is not very bright, the ogre says, "Yes, I can," and promptly turns into what? A mouse. And the cat does what? Eats the mouse. Yes. And leaves the castle and claims it for his master, the miller's son. And the miller's son then marries the princess and lives happily ever after. But what struck me about this is what happened really is cat walks in, cat walks out, and there are no witnesses. So I was wondering what really happened in that castle. And that's how I got started thinking of the story. And if you read it, you're not going to see a lot of that in there. But you'll see some echoes. So I'm going to read to you a little bit from the beginning of the book that kind of touches on that. And you see the cover, Elodie is crossing the channel from the island of Lant, where she lived with her parents, to the town of Two Castles. One castle owned by the king, the other castle owned by an ogre. And she's on her way to become an apprentice. But she finds out pretty quickly that that's not going to be possible. So she doesn't have any money. She doesn't know what's going to happen to her. She meets an elderly woman as she goes along, as she's in the boat, which is called a cog. And that's what a medieval boat, that's a kind of medieval boat. They become friends, and so she's talking to this elderly woman, if you want to look. But I'm going to skip a lot, because they're sharing food, and I'm not going to read that part. Have you heard of the cats of Two Castles? I shook my head. Cats in Two Castles? The townspeople believe cats protect them from the ogre. There are many. Many cats or many ogres? She laughed. Cats. You know that ogres shift shape sometimes. Yes. Cats know they do too. The cats sense that an ogre can become a fox or a wolf, but they're not afraid. Our cat at home, Bellis, who weighed less than a pail of milk, feared nothing. They're aware that an ogre can also turn into a mouse. Can an ogre shift into any kind of animal? A spider or an elephant? I believe so. Can an ogre shift into a human? Her eyebrows went up. I doubt it. She returned to the subject of cats. A cat will stare at an ogre and will him, to become a mouse. They say one cat isn't enough, but several yearning at him, and the ogre can't resist. I pitied the ogre. Is that true? Many believe it. What's more, people train their cats. They don't train them to try to make an ogre become a mouse. It is in the cat's nature to do that, and the ogre must cooperate by giving in. But folks train cats to perform tricks and to stalk anything, including an ogre. Some make a living at cat teaching. With a flick of the wrist, she showed me, and I imitated her, nothing to it. With this gesture, anyone can set a cat to stalking. If there were no cats, what would the ogre do? Nothing, perhaps, or dine on townsfolk. So that's from the book. And you'll see in the cover, there's a dragon in the background. And it's Minor. And Minor is kind of a detective dragon, a very, very brilliant dragon. And it's an it, because dragons don't tell anybody their gender. So they won't reveal whether they're a boy dragon or a girl dragon. So that's why it's an it. Now, another thing that got me started with the book, or at least helped me write it, is one morning I woke up and I thought, this has never happened to me before. It will never happen to me again, probably. But I woke up thinking, what is a whited sepulcher? So can one of you say what a whited sepulcher is?
It's someone who seems really nice, but they really aren't.
Yes. It's somebody who seems good, is really evil. Now, the word whited means painted white. And the word sepulcher means tomb. So you'd think it would be a tomb painted white, but that's not what it means. It means what Meriden just said. And so when you read the book, see if do you agree with me that we're not giving away who it is or whether it's a girl or a boy or an it. But would you agree that that was a whited sepulcher? Yeah, would you agree? Yeah. Okay. Good. So that was another source of the book. And those are the sources. Also, the fairy tale Puss in Boots was collected and comes to us from a man named Perrault. And Perrault was French. I've anglicized, which means I've made English. I've made Englishy. A lot of French words. So the name of the ogre is Jonty. That's his first name. His last name is U-M. What would that be in French? Gentleman. Gentilhomme in French, spelled differently, is gentleman. And the husband of the elderly lady is toi, T-W-A-H. But what would that be? You, the familiar of you, and that's what you would call your husband. That's how you would refer to your husband. So there's little French things all the way through spelled wrong. So that is, now, the dragon, it's not exactly the dragon that I was envisioning. The wings are right. The wings are good. But if you look, have any of you ever looked at a picture, I hope you haven't seen in close-up, a Komodo dragon? Yeah. The dragon, that's what I describe in the book, is a Komodo dragon with wings.